If I could only choose a few lifestyle habits that have had the biggest impact on my health over the years, sleep would absolutely have to be near the top of the list. In fact, I think sleep may be one of the most overlooked healing tools that's available to us. And I understand why. I mean, sleep doesn't feel exciting. Nobody's trying to sell you a miracle sleep pill every 5 minutes. Actually, never mind. I take that back. I guess there are all kinds of pills that are sold in a fancy bottle, but it doesn't necessarily promise overnight transformation, is what I mean. So the truth is, your body does some of its most important work while you're sleeping. Think about that. The hours when you're unconscious may actually be some of the most productive hours your body experiences all day. Now, while you're sleeping, your body is repairing tissue, regulating hormones, supporting immune function, consolidating memories, balancing neurotransmitters, recovering from the demands of the day. And if you're constantly deprived of sleep, it's a little bit like asking a construction crew to rebuild a house while only allowing them to work 15 minutes a day. Eventually, progress slows down, right? Not because the crew is lazy, but because they don't have enough time to do the work. That's how I think about recovery. Recovery requires opportunity. And the body needs time and rest, and the body needs darkness and consistency. And unfortunately, modern life often works against all of those things. I mean, most people are sleeping less than previous generations. I think we all know that. I mean, we're exposed to artificial light late in the evening, scrolling on phones before bed. We're all guilty of it. And watching television until they fall asleep or carrying stress into the bedroom. And you want to know? I'll just even tell a confession. My husband and I were determined to try and watch less TV in the evening, right? That's a good goal to have. And then we thought, well, we won't have a TV in the bedroom, right? Because I don't like it to be on if we've fallen asleep. And so we have the TV out of the bedroom. And in response, we still are guilty of pulling up the iPad and watching a show on the iPad. So I understand it is difficult. I am not saying I'm immune. It's fun to watch a show before bed. Not saying you can never do it, but recognize that you're doing it. The body was designed to function according to rhythms. And so if we're waking up exhausted every day, and the rhythm is we're staying up late watching shows every night, we have to pay attention to that. Think of your circadian rhythm as your body's internal clock. It's constantly helping coordinate sleep, hormones, energy, digestion, and temperature regulation or immune activity, and honestly, many other processes. So the challenge is that this clock relies heavily on environmental cues, especially light. For most of human history, people woke up with the sun and rested after dark. So their bodies received clear signals about what time it was. It was easy. I say that, but I don't really know. I wasn't alive back then. I'm sure they had a lot of challenges. But morning light meant it was time to wake up. And evening darkness meant it was time to prepare for rest. Today, many of us are receiving mixed signals. We spend most of the day indoors, and then we expose ourselves to bright lights and bright screens, light that really triggers our brain late into the evening, and the body gets confused. And when the body's timing system is disrupted, then sleep is often going to suffer. So one of the most simple habits I've added to my life is getting outside shortly after waking up. It doesn't need to be complicated. You don't need a perfect sunrise routine. You don't need to sit on a mountain meditating for an hour. You don't. Just step outside. Let natural light hit your eyes. Just take a short walk. If you can't, no big deal. I often don't first thing in the morning, but you could sit on the porch, drink your morning drink outside, spend a few minutes connecting with the morning. That simple habit sends a powerful signal to the brain. It's going to say, this is daytime. And surprisingly, that signal can help your body prepare for better sleep later that night. Which brings me to vitamin D. We got to talk about it. Vitamin D is called the sunshine vitamin because sunlight helps our bodies produce it. And as we discussed earlier, vitamin D plays an important role in immune function, mood, bone health, and overall wellness. But I want to be careful here. Sunlight is beneficial. More sunlight is not always better, especially for people with MS. Many people with MS are heat sensitive. Too much heat can temporarily make things worse or worsen your symptoms. Too much sun exposure can become stressful rather than supportive. This is why I encourage a balanced approach. Gentle exposure, morning exposure, respecting your body's limits, not forcing anything when it comes to the sun, because healing is rarely about extremes. It's usually about consistency. Now, there's another practice that becomes increasingly important to me. Over the years, I've learned about it and implemented it, and I know some people will immediately dismiss it. That's okay. I encourage people to keep an open mind and decide for themselves. I'm talking about grounding, sometimes called earthing. Grounding is simply the practice of physically connecting with the earth, walking barefoot on grass, standing barefoot on the soil, sitting on the ground, touching natural surfaces with your skin. At first glance, it sounds, I know, almost too simple to matter, but think about how disconnected modern life has become. Most of us spend our days inside buildings, wearing rubber-soled shoes, driving cars, looking at screens, rarely making direct contact with the natural environment. For most of human history, people were constantly connected to the earth. They worked outdoors, walked outdoors, lived much closer to nature. Today, many of us can go days or even weeks without ever standing barefoot on the ground. Now, I understand that grounding remains a topic of debate. Some of the claims surrounding it are stronger than the evidence currently available. And I think it's important to be honest about that. But here's what I can tell you. Many people report feeling calmer after spending time connected with nature. They feel less stressed, more relaxed, more present. And whether that's due to grounding itself, being outdoors, reducing stress, or a combination of the factors, the result is still meaningful. Because one thing we know for certain is that spending time in nature is beneficial for mental well-being. When I walk barefoot in the grass, I'm not expecting a miracle. I'm simply creating another opportunity for my nervous system to slow down, another opportunity to reconnect with something larger than myself, another opportunity to step away from screens, notifications, and just the constant stimulation. And I think many of us need more of that, which brings me to something else modern life has stolen from us: stillness. Most people are overstimulated all day long. Music, television, podcasts, phones, notifications, emails, conversations, noise, constant noise, constant. And while none of those things are inherently bad, I think many people have forgotten what it feels like to sit quietly, to simply be, to let the mind settle, to just allow the nervous system to rest. Some of the most restorative moments in my life have happened in silence. Not because silence solves every problem, but because silence creates space, space to think or breathe, space to recover, space to hear what your body may be trying to tell you. And when we combine all of these things together, like morning sunlight, consistent sleep, reducing evening screen exposure, have some herbal tea before bed, it's good for you. Deep breathing, grounding, quiet moments in nature, we begin creating an environment where recovery becomes more possible. Notice something important here. None of these things are dramatic. None of them are revolutionary. None of them require a prescription. They're simple. But simple doesn't mean insignificant. In fact, some of the most powerful changes I've experienced came from consistently doing simple things, day after day, week after week, year after year, because healing, it rarely happens in one giant moment. More often, it happens through thousands of small choices that gradually move the body in a better direction. And one of the most important choices we can make is movement. Not punishing movement, not exhausting movement, but supportive movement. Movement that reminds the body what it's capable of, movement that encourages adaptation, movement that helps the brain and body continue communicating. So let's talk about that next. One of the saddest things I hear from women with multiple sclerosis is this: I'm afraid to exercise. And honestly, I understand why. When you're exhausted, or when your body feels unpredictable, or when symptoms flare unexpectedly, movement can feel intimidating. For some women, exercise becomes associated with disappointment, or men with MS that used to be able to do so much, and then they try to do too much. Their symptoms worsen, fatigue increases, and eventually they begin avoiding movement altogether. If that's where you are right now, I want you to hear me. I understand. And more importantly, I want you to know that movement doesn't have to look the way you think it does. Because somewhere along the way, our culture convinced us that exercise only counts if it's intense, sweaty, exhausting, painful, all or nothing, and that's simply not true. Movement is information, just like food is information. Every time you move your body, you're sending signals. You're telling your muscles, stay active. You're telling your brain, maintain these pathways. You're telling your nervous system, we still use this. And those signals matter far more than most people realize. One of the most fascinating discoveries in neuroscience is what we called neuroplasticity. You've heard me mention it briefly already. Now let's go deeper. Neuroplasticity is your brain's ability to adapt, to learn, to reorganize, to create new pathways. For many years, scientists really did believe that the adult brain was relatively fixed, like I mentioned. The thinking was that once you reached adulthood, your brain was essentially done changing. Thankfully, we now know that's not true. Your brain is changing every single day. Every experience, every movement, every skill you practice, every challenge you work through, your brain is constantly adapting. And I find that incredibly hopeful, because if the brain can adapt, then we should never underestimate what the body is capable of. Now, does that mean every symptom disappears? No. Does that mean everyone experiences the same outcomes? No. But it does mean we should stop assuming that today's limitations automatically define tomorrow's possibilities. Your body is always responding, always adapting, always trying. And movement is one of the ways we communicate with that process. Think about learning to ride a bicycle. The first time you try, it feels weird, unstable, like really frustrating. Your brain is working incredibly hard, but over time, new pathways form. The skills become easier. Eventually, you don't even think about it. The same thing happens whenever we practice movement. The brain learns, the nervous system adapts, connections strengthen. And while MS can certainly create challenges, I never want people to underestimate the remarkable adaptability built into the human body. One thing I noticed during my own journey was that the less I moved, the worse I felt. Now, let me be careful here. I'm not saying movement cured anything. I'm not saying exercise is a miracle, but I am saying that inactivity often created its own problems. My joints became stiffer, and my energy, it decreased. My confidence decreased. Everything felt harder. Then something interesting happened. When I started moving again, even gently, I often felt better. Not instantly or dramatically, but gradually the body responded. My body responded. And that's why I encourage people struggling with this to stop thinking about exercise as punishment. Think of it as nourishment. Movement is nourishment. Walking is nourishment. Stretching is nourishment. Balance work is nourishment. Strength training, swimming, movement feeds the body information it needs. So now let's talk about one of the biggest fears many women have with MS, probably men too. I say women because that's what I know from experience. Fatigue. Because fatigue with MS is real. Oh, it is so real. This isn't ordinary tiredness. Many people watching this understand exactly what I'm talking about. It's the kind of exhaustion where even small tasks can feel overwhelming. The kind of exhaustion that other people don't understand. The kind of exhaustion that can't always be fixed with a nap. Oh, come on. If that's you, I want to offer you something that changed my perspective. Instead of asking, how much exercise should I do? Start asking, what amount of movement supports my body today? Those are very different questions. Some days the answer might be a 30-minute walk. Other days it might be stretching for 5 minutes. Some days it might be gentle movement just around your home. The goal is consistency, not perfection. One of the biggest mistakes people make is trying to do tomorrow's workout with today's energy. Respect your body. Work with it, not against it. I often tell people to imagine they're building a relationship with their body. A healthy relationship. A healthy relationship requires listening. There are times to challenge yourself, and there are times to push a little, and there are times to rest. Wisdom is learning the difference. Now let's talk about balance. Balance is one of the first things many people become concerned about after diagnosis, and understandably so. Balance problems can be frustrating. They can feel scary. They can affect confidence. But here's something encouraging. Balance is a skill. And like many skills, it can be practiced. Simple exercises. Standing on one foot while holding onto a countertop. Heel to toe. You know it, heel to toe. Gentle stability exercises. These small activities actually help to challenge the brain and body to continue working together. Again, we're providing information, we're encouraging adaptation, we're supporting communication, and the same principle applies to coordination. One of the most powerful things you can do for your brain is learn something new. I know that sounds unrelated, but stay with me. Learning stimulates the brain. Learning creates adaptation. Learning encourages neuroplasticity. This could mean learning a musical instrument, a language, a new hobby, a new skill. Even something as simple as brushing your teeth with your non-dominant hand can challenge the brain in an interesting way. The point isn't becoming an expert. The point is encouraging the brain to stay engaged, to stay adaptable and learning, because a brain that continues learning is a brain that continues adapting. So let's talk briefly about resistance training. This is an era where many women underestimate themselves in this area. Like, strength matters, muscle matters, especially as we age. Muscle isn't just about appearance. Muscle supports balance and metabolism, your bone health, your blood sugar regulation. So the beautiful thing to consider is that strength training doesn't require a gym membership. I do not have a gym membership. I don't go to the gym. You don't need to. If you do and that's your thing, go for it. Keep going. I'm not discouraging that. But if it's not and you don't want to, then don't. You can use resistance bands, light dumbbells, even your own body weight for exercises, like doing chair exercises or the counter or yoga or videos. There are countless ways to begin. And remember, you don't have to start where someone else is. Start where you are. That's enough. In fact, I want you to remember something. Every woman watching this video is at a different place in her journey. Every person, male, female, young, old, doesn't matter. Some of you may be walking miles every day. Some of you may be struggling to walk across the room. Both deserve respect. Both deserve encouragement. Both deserve support, because healing isn't a competition. It's a personal journey. And one of the greatest gifts you can give yourself is refusing to compare your path to someone else's. Focus on your next step, not someone else's. And if you consistently take that next step, something remarkable is going to begin to happen. The body adapts, the mind adapts, confidence grows, and hope grows. And eventually you begin realizing that you're capable of more than you thought. Now, we've talked about food, and we've talked about the gut. We've talked about the nervous system. We've talked about breathing. We've talked about sunlight, sleep, grounding, and movement. It's time to bring all of those pieces together, because information is valuable, but implementation changes lives. And that's exactly why I created the framework I'm about to share with you. It's a framework designed to reduce overwhelm, create structure, and help you know what to focus on first. Let's talk about the three phases that form the foundation of everything I teach. One of the biggest mistakes I see people make when they decide to take control of their health is trying to change everything at once. And honestly, I do understand why. When you're hurting, when you're scared, when you're desperate for answers, you really do want to fix everything immediately. You want the inflammation gone, you want the fatigue gone, and you want the brain fog gone. You want your life back, so you buy 20 supplements and you completely change your diet. You start exercising every day and you overhaul your entire routine. And for a few days or maybe even a few weeks, you manage to keep it going. And something happens and life happens and you get overwhelmed, you get exhausted or discouraged, and suddenly the whole thing falls apart. And it's not because you failed. It's because the plan wasn't sustainable. One of the most important lessons that I've learned over the years is that healing isn't about doing more. Sometimes it's about doing the right things in the right order. And that's why I created what I call the 3-phase healing framework. It could be looked at as 2 or 3, but for this video, we're going to do it in 3. Not because there are only 3 things that matter, but because the body tends to respond better when we stop overwhelming it and start supporting it systematically. Let's think about building a house. You don't start with a roof. You don't install windows before there's a foundation. You build in stages. The body is no different. And that's exactly what these phases are designed to do. They create order, they create structure, they create momentum, and most importantly, they reduce overwhelm. Because overwhelmed people rarely heal efficiently. They spend all their energy just trying to figure out what to do next. And I want to try and remove that burden. I want you to know exactly what to focus on and exactly where to begin, exactly what matters most. And that's where phase 1 comes in. Phase 1 is to stabilize. If I could summarize phase 1 in a single sentence, it would be this: create safety. That's the goal. Not perfection, not optimization. We're not becoming the healthiest person on the planet. Safety. Because many people arrive at this point feeling like their bodies are constantly on edge. Their digestion is struggling and their energy is inconsistent. Their nervous system feels overwhelmed and their inflammation feels out of control. And the worst thing we can do at this point is add more chaos. The body doesn't need more pressure. The body needs support. So phase 1 is all about reducing the burden. This is where we begin removing some of the things that commonly create stress within the body, processed foods, artificial ingredients, excess sugar, foods that don't seem to be serving us well. Again, this isn't about fear. It's about creating space. Think about cleaning a cluttered room. Before you bring anything new into this space, you often have to remove what doesn't belong. That's what we're doing. We're making room. We're creating an environment where the body can finally exhale. One of the things I encourage during this phase is increasing vegetables dramatically, especially leafy greens and cruciferous vegetables. Like think kale, broccoli, cabbage, Brussels sprouts, cauliflower. Foods rich in nutrients, foods that are rich in fiber, foods that help support the body's natural processes. This is also where smoothies become incredibly useful. I love smoothies because they're practical. Most people are busy. Most people don't have time to prepare elaborate meals all day long. A smoothie allows you to quickly and easily provide your body with nutrients that you might otherwise not be able to get because they're difficult to consume consistently. So for many people, this is going to become one of the simplest habits to maintain, and consistency matters more than perfection. Another major focus of phase 1 is hydration. Now, I know hydration sounds boring. I get it. Nobody gets excited about drinking water, but every cell in your body depends on it. Your brain depends on it. Your circulation depends on it. Your energy depends on it. Your detoxification system definitely depends on it. Hydration is foundational. Then we're going to begin supporting the nervous system with breathing, sleep, sunlight, grounding, moments of quiet. This phase is really about teaching the body that it no longer has to stay in survival mode every minute of the day. And something interesting often happens. When people begin creating safety, the body starts responding, and sometimes digestion naturally just improves, and sleep improves, and inflammation begins calming. Sometimes energy becomes more stable, not because we solved everything, but because we've removed some of the pressure. And that's exactly what we're trying to do. Now, eventually, something else begins to happen. The body becomes more resilient, and when that happens, we move into phase 2. I often think of phase 2 as the rebuilding phase. For phase 2, we're focused on support. Now, we begin strengthening the foundation because we've reduced some of the burden. This is where we start focusing more intentionally on nutrients. Not because nutrients suddenly matter now, they've always mattered, but the body is often better prepared to use them once some of the overwhelm has been reduced. This is where I begin paying closer attention to things like vitamin D, vitamin K2, magnesium, B vitamins, omega-3 fatty acids, selenium, CoQ10, sulforaphane, quercetin. The goal is not supplement overload. The goal is strategic support. Think about a garden. If the soil is depleted, adding nutrients helps create conditions where growth becomes more likely. That's why we're trying to build this support. We're trying to accomplish this by supporting the systems involved in repair. We're supporting energy production, and we're supporting the nervous system. We're supporting the body's natural ability to adapt. This phase is also where movement becomes increasingly important. Not punishment, not exhaustion, movement, walking, stretching, swimming, resistance training, balance exercises. Whatever is appropriate for your current abilities. Remember, movement is information. The body responds to use. And when we move consistently, we're sending signals that encourage adaptation. I also encourage continued focus on digestion during this phase because nutrients are only useful if the body can actually utilize them. And one of the most exciting things many women experience during this stage is momentum. They begin noticing small improvements. Maybe their energy is slightly better, maybe sleeping a little more deeply, and digestion feels more consistent. These improvements matter because they build confidence, and confidence is creating hope. Now, eventually, after we've spent time stabilizing and supporting, we move into what I believe is one of the most rewarding phases, phase three, where we restore. This is where the framework shifts from intervention to lifestyle. And honestly, I love this phase because by now, many of the habits that once felt impossible or difficult are starting to feel normal. You're no longer trying to remember everything. You're living it. You're no longer forcing routines. They're just part of your life. And that's important because sustainable health isn't built on temporary effort. It's built on sustainable habits. Phase three focuses on maintaining what you've built, refining what works, and continuing to support the body, continuing to support the nervous system, continuing to support digestion and recovery. This is where consistency becomes your greatest advantage, not intensity, consistency. One of the things I've learned over the years is that dramatic transformations are often less dramatic than they appear. When people look back at significant improvements, they're usually looking at hundreds of small decisions accumulated over time. Better sleep, better food, better hydration, stress management, better movement, better recovery. Day after day, week after week, month after month, the body responds. And that's what phase three is really about. Not chasing perfection, not chasing extremes, building a life that supports healing, a life that is sustainable, a life that is realistic, a life that you can actually live. Because if a plan only works under perfect conditions, it doesn't really work. Real life is messy. Real life includes holidays, stress, family obligations, or unexpected challenges. The goal isn't about perfection. The goal is resilience. The goal is having a framework you can return to whenever life gets difficult. Because life will get difficult. That's part of being human. But when you have a roadmap, you don't stay lost nearly as long. And that's exactly why I created this framework. Not to make healing complicated, to make it simpler, to give people a place to start, to give people a path forward, to replace confusion with clarity. And speaking of clarity, I want to leave you with something incredibly practical. Because if everything we've talked about feels overwhelming, there's one place I recommend everyone begin. A simple challenge, 7 days, no perfection required, just 7 days focused on supporting your body. Let's talk about the 7-day reset. All right. At this point, we've covered a lot. We've talked about MS and we've talked about inflammation. We've talked about the gut and food and sleep and stress. We've talked about movement and nutrients. And if you're anything like most people, you might be feeling one of two things right now. Either you're excited or you're overwhelmed. Honestly, both are normal. Because whenever you learn something new, there's often a moment where we think, okay, but where do we start? I don't even know what to do. And that's exactly why I created this 7-day reset. Not because 7 days will magically solve everything. And it's not because 7 days will reverse years of challenges, but because 7 days is manageable. 7 days feels possible. 7 days allows you to experience momentum. And momentum is incredibly powerful. One of the biggest mistakes people make is trying to completely transform their lives overnight. They decide they're going to become a completely different person tomorrow. They're going to eat perfectly, exercise perfectly, sleep perfectly, manage stress perfectly, take every supplement perfectly. And within a week, they're exhausted. It's not because they're incapable. It's because they tried to carry too much at once. The 7-day reset is different. It's simple, it's gentle, and it's designed to help you experience what it feels like to support your body intentionally. For 7 days, we're not chasing perfection. We're creating awareness, consistency, and opportunity. And most importantly, we're giving your body a chance to breathe. So let's walk through it together. Day 1, reset. The first day is all about creating space, not adding more, removing some of the noise. So for 1 day, I want you to pay attention. Notice what you're eating. Notice what you're drinking. Notice how often you're reaching for sugar. Just notice how often you're eating because you're hungry versus eating because you're stressed, bored, tired, or emotional. There's no judgment here. We're simply becoming aware. Awareness always comes before change. Today, I want you to focus on reducing processed foods, artificial ingredients, sugary drinks, and fast foods. You don't need perfection. Simply focus on awareness and starting to reduce, because you can't change what you don't notice. Day 2, you're going to nourish. Now that we've started creating awareness, let's begin adding support. Today, your focus is nourishment. I want you to intentionally increase vegetables, not because vegetables are magical, because they are supportive. Add leafy greens, add colorful vegetables, add cruciferous vegetables. If you can, focus on real food, foods that look like food, food your great-grandmother would recognize. And as you're eating, ask yourself, how does this food make me feel? Not immediately, but over the next several hours. Because one of the most important skills you can develop is learning to listen to your body. Day 3, support digestion. Today, we're focusing on the gut. Slow down while eating. Chew thoroughly. Avoid rushing through meals. I don't know how everyone eats so quickly, but I'm always the last person to be done eating. And now it just naturally happens, even when I don't mean for it to. But I learned it over time by chewing thoroughly, eating slowly. When I say avoid rushing through meals, I really mean it. Also, make sure you drink enough water. Add fiber-rich foods. If tolerated, consider a small serving of fermented foods in each meal or snack, something like sauerkraut or kimchi, fermented vegetables or yogurt. The goal isn't forcing anything. The goal is supporting digestion. Remember, digestion isn't just about food. It's about absorption, and it's about communication. It's about creating an environment where the body can utilize what you're giving it. Day 4, we're going to calm the nervous system. This may be the most important day in the entire challenge because many people don't realize how exhausted their nervous systems have become. Today, I want you to intentionally create moments of calm. Practice deep breathing. Spend time outside. Take a slow walk. Sit quietly for a few minutes and reduce unnecessary stimulation. So less scrolling, less noise, less rushing. Ask yourself, when was the last time I truly relaxed? Not distracted, not entertained, relaxed. Your body deserves that experience, and often your body has been craving it for years. Day 5, we're going to restore energy. Today we're focusing on energy, not fake energy, not caffeine-driven energy, real energy, the kind that comes from supporting the body rather than forcing it. Focus on hydration, nutrient-dense foods, movement, fresh air, sleep, like good quality sleep, and pay attention to what drains your energy. Because sometimes improving energy isn't about adding things. Sometimes it's about removing unnecessary drains. Day 6, we're going to build momentum. By now, you've already proven something important. You can do this. Maybe not perfectly, but consistently. And consistency matters more than perfection ever will. Today, continue the habits you've built throughout the week. Drink water, eat supportive foods, move your body. Practice breathing, get outside, go to bed on time, and recognize something important. You are already becoming the type of person who supports their health. Identity matters. Every healthy choice is a vote for the future version of yourself. Day 7, reflect. Today, I don't want you to be focusing on what didn't happen. I want you focusing on what did happen. Ask yourself, how do I feel? How is my energy? How is my digestion? How's my sleep? How's my mood? How does my body, how does it feel compared to 7 days ago? Maybe the changes are small. That's okay. Small changes matter because small changes become larger changes, and larger changes become transformation. 1 day at a time, 1 week at a time, 1 habit at a time. Now, I want to be realistic. 7 days isn't a miracle, but many people notice something. Less bloating, more stable energy, better digestion, better sleep, fewer cravings, a calmer nervous system, and perhaps, most importantly, hope. Because when your body begins responding, even in small ways, you realize something powerful. Your body isn't done. Your story isn't done. And that realization changes everything. After the reset, once you've completed the 7 days, you have two options. Option one, repeat it. Another 7 days. Keep building momentum. Keep creating consistency. Keep supporting your body. Option two, you can move into the full framework, the stabilize phase, the support phase, the restore phase, the roadmap we've discussed throughout this video. You can find more about it in my book, which you'll find in the description below if you want to order it. It's the starting line because the 7-day reset was never meant to be the finish line. It's your opportunity to stop waiting, to stop wondering, to stop feeling stuck, and begin taking action. Not dramatic action, consistent action, because consistency changes lives. And before we finish this conversation, there's one final thing I want to share with you. If I could go back 20 years and sit beside the scared young mother that I used to be, the one sitting in that neurologist's office, the one who thought her future had just been written for her, here's what I would tell her. If I could go back in time, if I could walk into that neurologist's office and sit between, I just like to even consider it. The young mother who had just been told to prepare for disability. The woman who was scared, confused. I didn't even really know what to do, what to expect. I was so overwhelmed and uncertain about what the future would hold. There are a lot of things I would tell her. I would tell her that the fear she's feeling is normal. I would tell her that it's okay to cry. It's okay to grieve. And it's okay to feel angry. It's okay to feel confused. Because receiving a diagnosis like multiple sclerosis changes something inside of you. Not because your life is over, but because the future suddenly feels uncertain. And uncertainty can be terrifying. I would tell her that she doesn't need to have all the answers today. She doesn't need to figure out the next 20 years tonight. She only needs to focus on the next step. Just the next step. Because healing rarely happens 20 years at a time. It happens one day at a time, one choice at a time, one habit at a time. I would tell her that her body is not her enemy. I know that's hard to believe when symptoms are scary. I know it's hard to believe when you're exhausted. I know it's hard to believe when you're looking at MRI images and hearing words you've never heard before. But I would tell her this. Your body is still fighting for you, not against you. Your body is trying to adapt. Your body is trying to survive. Your body is trying to communicate. And the more you learn to listen, the more you begin understanding what it needs. I would tell her that there will be days when she feels discouraged. Days when she feels tired, days when she feels like nothing is working. And I would tell her to not let those days define her story, because one bad day is not a bad life. One flare is not the end of the journey. One setback is not failure. Healing is rarely a straight line. Sometimes it's messy, sometimes it's frustrating, sometimes it feels like 2 steps forward and 1 step back, sometimes 3. But progress is still progress. I would tell her that comparison is one of the fastest ways to lose hope. There will always be people doing better. There will always be people doing worse. Neither comparison changes what her body needs today. Focus on your path. Focus on your next step. Focus on what you can control and let the rest go. I would tell her to stop waiting for motivation, because motivation comes and goes. What changes lives is consistency. Small things done consistently become powerful over time. A healthy meal, a walk, a good night's sleep, a breathing exercise, a glass of water, a decision just to keep going. Those things matter more than most people realize. I would tell her not to underestimate the power of hope. Hope isn't denial. Hope isn't pretending everything is fine. Hope is choosing to believe that improvement is possible even when you can't see it yet. Hope is choosing to keep showing up. Hope is choosing to keep learning, keep trying. And I would tell her something else, something I didn't understand at 21. Your diagnosis is part of your story, but it's not your identity. You are not multiple sclerosis. You are not a lesion. You are not a lesion on an MRI. You are not a prognosis. You are not a statistic. You are a woman, a mother, a wife, a daughter, a friend, a child of God, a person with dreams, purpose, value, and a future. Never let a diagnosis become the most important thing about you, because it isn't. And finally, I would tell her this. I would tell her this. 20 years from now, you're going to be okay. And it's not because everything will be perfect, and it's not because you'll never have struggles, and it's not because you'll never have hard days, but because you're stronger than you realize. You're more resilient than you realize. And your story is far from over. In fact, some of the most meaningful parts of your story haven't even happened yet. And if you're watching this right now, I want you to hear those words too. Your story is not over. No matter what diagnosis you received, no matter what symptoms you're facing, no matter how discouraged you feel, your story is still being written, and there is still reason to hope. Before you go, if this video helped you understand your body a little better, if it gave you hope, if it encouraged you. I would love to continue this journey with you. Over the last several years, I've taken everything I've learned from living with multiple sclerosis for 20 years and organized it into a step-by-step guide. My book, Finally Understand Multiple Sclerosis, includes the full healing framework to stabilize, support, and restore in these phases through daily routines, supplement schedules, food guidance, practical tools to help you take action. If you'd like to learn more, you can find the book through the links below. And if you'd like additional resources, articles, updates, and future programs, I invite you to visit my website. It's www.youareworthithealth.com. And it's the letter U, the letter R, and then the words, worthithealth.com. You can get my book on Amazon, but the link is down below. If you're new here, I'd love for you to subscribe to the channel. As of today, I think I only have 46 subscribers, and I am so happy I have you guys. I am so glad that you're my first 46. I love it. This channel is new, and I know it takes time, but please subscribe and share if there's anyone you know that could help you. Or I'm sorry. Well, yeah, that's a good one too. I was going to say that this could help, but also if it could help them just to know this in order to help you, that's great too. Every week, I share videos about multiple sclerosis, autoimmune health, inflammation, gut health, nervous system regulation, fatigue, nutrition, and practical strategies for supporting your body. My goal is not to overwhelm you. My goal is to help you feel informed, encouraged, and empowered. So before you leave, watch another video. Keep learning. Keep supporting your body. And remember something that I truly believe. You are worth the effort. You are worth the time. You are worth investing in. And your health is worth fighting for. Thank you for spending this time with me. I'm cheering for you. I'm excited that you found this video, and I'll see you in the next one.